right, welcome in everybody to Players Only Podcast. Another great week. I'm Vince, and I'm here with Austin, the fantasy football guru. And yeah, we're going to talk sports, gaming, and whatever in the news.
Absolutely.
Do you have a preference on where we start?
Yeah, let's go with sports first. Yeah.
So yeah, we had the NBA draft last week. Saw a lot of people get excited about it. The NBA draft, though, it's not the NFL draft, and I feel like I saw some people on TikTok making it like that. The guy that went first overall, Victor Wembanyama, real good out of France. He'll definitely be a starter, and I think even a Hall of Famer. Just with his size and ability to shoot.
Yep.
Where do you want
to kind of just stop there for a second, because there was a couple things that were coming out before the draft and a little bit kind of during, right? As you guys all know, I'm not an NBA mind, so I listen, I take the questions that I hear, and I'm just going to kind of pass them on to you, because I did hear quite a bit about Victor Wembanyama. And I guess you had kind of already answered this, thinking he's going to be a Hall of Famer. But I was going to say, with the first pick, he went there, right? So you do think he's going to be a top-end pick. He's not going to be a bust like Zion or anything like that.
Right. And right, part of the problem with Zion, right, all that extra weight, where Victor's pretty skinny. Victor, too, comes off as a pretty humble dude, getting out of France. And then going to the Spurs, you got a history there of good big men, Tim Duncan, Duncan Robinson. And then a coach people call the best, Popovich. So,
yeah. And then one thing I heard it like 3 times, and it's gonna bug the hell out of you, but I'm gonna ask it anyway because I'm looking for the eye roll.
Oh, I think I know. There's some on TikTok. I think I know what you're gonna ask.
So they said if Victor Wembanyama, however you say his name, was in the exact same draft class as LeBron James, LeBron James would have gone second. What's your thoughts?
No, God, no. Like, the argument would have to be, like, in this day and age, shooting is more important. Victor looks like a better shooter. That would have to be the argument, but no, LeBron, I would argue, had better competition. So even though, again, it was high school. And I don't agree. I thought the question you were going to ask and what people were talking about on TikTok was the whole, is Victor Wembanyama already a top 10 player in the NBA? And that is a big fat no. No, he's got to prove it. And more than one game, it's got to be like most of the season, like 75%. Then I'm okay if it's a really good.
Hold on a second, because I think you already know what this question is going to be. So, you're saying Victor Wembanyama, before he could be considered a top 10 player in the NBA currently, he has to play at least 75%. And
it's got to be good, obviously. It's got to be...
Hold on. Bijan Robinson is a top-end fantasy running back at this current time. You had him like 1 or 2, and he hasn't played a down. But you already have him at the top end for running backs.
Yeah. I feel like it's kind of 2 different things. Yeah. Running back, you kind of know what you're going to get. Now, still, would I take running backs in the top 15 picks? No. Or even in the first round? No. And I still think Brees, years from now, we're going to look at him as a better running back. Better than Bijan. But,
okay.
Yeah, I just kind of feel like I know what I'm getting there. And like when you're talking fantasy too, you're worried about how much workload they're gonna get, how long they're gonna
Sure.
last. So I feel like there's kind of some of those other factors where Victor's got to be very dominant, and not just for forwards or centers, like all players combined to be talking top 10.
Sure. I feel like when it comes to NBA versus NFL, right? With the NFL, more or less, you know what you're going to get, but there are more busts than there are winners, right?
Yeah.
I feel like we hear about more of the winners that we get in like the fourth and fifth and sixth rounds versus the ones in the first rounds, because most of them, if they're not, defensive linemen or cornerbacks or something like that are just go nuts, they're pretty quiet for the most part, even though they're very good. But the running backs, the wide receivers, and quarterbacks we hear about all the time, they're all busts for the most part, or they're really, really good in some aspects. So you're more prone to get a bust in the first round versus in the NBA, I feel like they have a better track record for that first overall pick at the very least. I know after that it's kind of a crapshoot no matter what. Yeah. But that first overall pick, for the most part, is usually a top-end player, or more or less.
Yeah. So. And again, NBA, you only have to do 1 year of college basketball. If you're overseas, it's different rules, like 2 or 3 years of whatever pro league. Where the NFL, you have to do 3 years of college. So a lot of people do 3 or 4 years. So
right.
You're a little bit older.
Get that degree. For sure. Those are the main two things I was hearing all week, leading up to the draft and then after. But I wanted to wait till at least after the draft when I kind of heard a little bit more. But otherwise, the only cool thing I was hearing from the draft was that Brothers story that I sent you. I didn't hear about them, obviously, and they went 3-4, I believe, 4 or 5.
Yeah, I would not want to be 4 because, like,
no.
To me, they look so like not just appearance, but like just how they played the highlights. They look so similar. But otherwise, 3, Scoot Henderson going to the Blazers. That started a little drama with your man Dame, because they're just so young, and he wants to win. So
Scoot was supposed to go second, right? For most of the days leading up to the draft, he was supposed to go second, or it was like right before the draft. At least Vegas had him going second for a good part of it.
Too. Yep.
Yeah. Do you know any idea of what could have changed to drop him to third? Because obviously we know, for example, this is more dramatic and obviously still NFL wise, because that's what I know, right? Will Levis, right? It was, hey, he's going to go second or third, potentially first, even though everybody knew Bryce Young was going to go first. And then all of a sudden he just kept falling, right? That's obviously a lot more dramatic. But, I mean, to go from second to third is still kind of big, though, especially in the NBA.
Yeah. But that being said, in the NBA, you don't. I can't ever think of a draft where people were talking like top 3, and then the guy just doesn't go in the top 20 or something like that. That just doesn't happen. But I felt like I heard it was just kind of some attitude, some interviews, maybe rub people the wrong way, but still talent-wise, top 3.
Up there, sure. No, for sure. It's just kind of. That's always my thing, right? I could care less for the most part about the NBA. I like the drama parts of it, but the draft parts are the interesting things, right? Like, why are people moving up and down when you've seen them play since middle school for the most part for a lot of these players, right? Yeah. You start watching them in middle school, especially in high school, and so on. So something has to change where it's like, all right, we're no longer going to look at him for that second pick, So that's always the interesting factor. So.
Mm-hmm. But, and right again, because they're so young, it's tough to tell what you're getting. You just
right. Yeah. Nobody knew that. Now, a couple of years later, like with Zion, that he'd either be hurt all the time or fat.
Yeah.
So.
And now the 2 guys after Zion. Ja Morant and the guy with the Knicks. I'm blanking on his name, but I'm sure if we weren't live or recording, I'd think of it. But you know, I know Zion kind of got into his troubles and drama, but
yeah, especially recently.
I'd take him over Zion. You know, if I were the Pelicans and I could do that draft over again, like I don't know where Zion's at. He's not going to get any younger.
And he just got him pretty close to a max deal or something like that too. He just got a ton of money, and he hasn't done anything, right? He's made no impact on the Pelicans whatsoever.
It's like 100 and some games out of 300 and some that he's played, and again he's had his flashes, but he's like never been healthy for when they've made the playoffs. It's just I don't know.
And what was the shoe thing? Was he like wearing his own like style of shoe or whatever that they say led to like the ankle injury that he's just never been right after? I know that's like one of the big things that they bring up whenever they're talking about Zion. Was that like his own thing, or was that something that one of the big companies was trying to like experiment for somebody like Zion, or what was it exactly?
Yeah. Potentially. I know in college there's like a highlight. He like was about to dunk, and like as he's going up, the shoe he's wearing at again this
exploded.
So Duke, his like it totally came apart. You could see his bare feet, or one of his bare like left foot.
Right.
So did they experiment? Probably.
Right. I wonder what company that was. Yeah, hopefully it's not like Nike or anything.
Yeah.
But no, that's always the nuts stuff and whatnot. But as far as like sports and stuff goes, that was the main two things I had. Obviously, there's nothing too much going on as far as NFL. Everybody's more or less on a break. Baseball is a marathon, and so that's never going to be really talked about by us until maybe towards the end.
With the NBA too, there was the Chris Paul trade.
Yep.
So, again, like last week, he got traded to the Wizards, myself, and I mean, a lot of people predicted he would get traded again because the Wizards are obviously rebuilding. Doesn't make sense to have someone that old.
Yeah.
And still pretty good. So now he's with the Warriors. My first reaction was kind of like, yeah, okay, you know, now they got a lot of guards, a lot of small guys. I saw on Twitter, though, there were a lot of Warriors fans that were pissed.
Oh, really?
That they got rid of Jordan Poole and traded for him because, I mean, they're all kind of the same. In my opinion, they got better, a little bit better, but he's got to be healthy for the playoffs or else there's no point to do this trade. Versus sending Jordan Poole someplace else. And Jordan Poole, man, like, I just don't know what happened to him. So 2 years ago in the playoffs when they won, he was looking so good. He was looking like he might replace, like, Curry or Klay Thompson, one of the top two players on that team. Then this last season, you know, I pick him in fantasy basketball, and he's a bust. You know, I was just waiting for that Steph Curry injury. Oh, yeah, he'll get all this play time. He'll go crazy. No. Maybe a night here and there, but, you know, I'm not going to start him.
No Zubac glory.
No.
Was there I feel like there was another big trade, but maybe it was just the Jordan Poole thing during the draft, or was that basically it?
So the John Collins trade for Ruby Gay, I mean, I saw hype about that today, but I'm not... Two junk teams and two mid-tier players that no one really talks about, cares about. So nothing really there. I mean, then there's the rumors that Dame goes to Miami in a trade. I would actually like to see that. I think that'd be fun to watch Miami with someone that can score like that. But I don't know. We'll see.
One thing I really wish actually came into fruition, because then maybe I'd actually pay attention to the NBA a little bit more. because we have been talking about it even the last couple of weeks, is the Cat rumors. And the main one I was hearing a lot was Cat for the 3rd overall pick, and then a couple other pieces being moved around or whatever. I mean, just think, like, how hyped would you be, right, going into next season? You have Anthony Edwards, and then, Scoot Henderson?
Scoot Henderson, yep. And we'd still have Gobert for our center.
Yep.
Yeah, no, that'd be exciting.
I mean, besides, obviously, Rudy, we have a pretty young team then, too, so it's like we did a really quick rebuild, if you wanted to think of it that way, going from kind of a shitty team, but somehow we made it to the playoffs. A pretty young team with potentially really good talent. So
we'd have 2 guards that would be here forever, and Scoot Henderson and Anthony Edwards.
Yep. So I wish that kind of came into fruition, but now that draft's over, I mean, why would you even do it? So. Mm-hmm. But otherwise, you have anything?
Yeah, no, I think that's about it for sports. Again, nothing really in the NFL. If you're watching and you want to play us in fantasy football, the link is below to my Discord to play.
We have 6 spots left, so it's filling up kind of fast, actually.
Yeah. But that being said, hey, we can try other modes. Best ball. Regular old redraft league.
Hey, I mean, like, the most we've done is 3-ish in a season. I'm willing to do 4 or 5. I mean, it'd be a lot, obviously, but hey, bring it. Yeah. I'll actually win one.
Maybe. But yeah. We'll talk. Watch our other content if you're interested there.
Yep.
Next, gaming. So I mean, I'll say what I know about the whole Xbox case trying to buy Activision, because that's like the whole court case, right? Yep. And they were coming out how Sony behind closed doors is trying to get all these people to be exclusive and paying them, and like the court, my understanding is they're holding this up because they don't want to make all these games exclusive to Xbox. And then I mean, we can get more specific, like I guess they didn't like that Spider-Man was exclusive, and then they wanted to make Indiana Jones or whatever.
Yeah, they have an Indiana Jones game coming out. Activision, I believe, is the one doing it, and then they're going to make it exclusive for Indiana Jones, and Sony's like, well, why don't I get it? And literally the CEO of Microsoft is like, why don't we get Spider-Man then? And the argument was kind of over right there. So yeah. But I mean, overall, it's a $69 billion deal. And then if Microsoft actually loses this, they have to pay like $3 billion or something like that to Activision to cut ties with the contract. So no matter what, Activision kind of comes out on top in this for the most part. I think the big thing is Sony was super scared that they weren't going to get Call of Duty. Which is a big deal, obviously, because everybody's then going to switch straight over to Microsoft and Xbox for Call of Duty. And Sony has been getting Call of Duty exclusive stuff for the last, 4 years? 5 years? New modes way ahead of time. You can play it almost a week before everybody else. Mm-hmm. The Outbreak mode, when that first stupidly released, that was like a couple days Sony only. So I mean, if Xbox does take Activision, it is a pretty big hit for Sony to get that exclusiveness away and those certain modes away. But at the same time, Call of Duty, at least Microsoft has currently said Call of Duty will still be on Sony. It's just those extra stuff will just move right back to Xbox. Here's my thing, right? As a console player, I could care less about the console wars for the most part, right? It's irritating having to get the 2 consoles because it's like, all right, I want to play Spider-Man, but I also want to play Halo and actually like some good multiplayer stuff. And Sony has mainly the single player stuff that I also really enjoy and love. So that's the irritating part. And then it's just from there, it's like, do you want that really, really, really good single player games, or do you want to play with your friends all the time? And I'd rather do both. So they have taken this way too far at this point, and now the Federal Trade Commission is like, all right, you guys need to chill out, because literally this whole court case is just them arguing and fighting in this fucking Mortal Kombat battle, essentially.
Yeah.
So it's irritating, but it's fun to watch.
Yeah. The part that bugs me is like I just kind of ask myself, like, you know, in a free country, should they be allowed to make some of these exclusive deals if they want to? Like, should we go to Nintendo and say Mario and Zelda and Pokemon, they have to be on Xbox and PlayStation 2?
Right.
But right, if Microsoft just buys all the companies, then then Sony will just want to sell or stop the PlayStation, for example, and then they'll kind of have a monopoly.
Yep. And I feel like Sony too is blindsided because a couple years ago at E3, everybody was going nuts for Sony because they had released the Last of Us Part 2 like gameplay, and that's all anybody would talk about, right? And Sony went first that year. And then all of a sudden, Xbox went after, and it's like, oh yeah, hey, we bought this company, we bought this company, we bought this company, we also bought this company, right? They showed no games for the most part that year, but it's like, hey, we bought like 15 companies, and this is what they've done in the past, and Sony's like, fuck, we're gonna get no more games. Besides their really, really good single-player games for the most part, right? And Game Pass, they also announced that at that E3 too. And Game Pass is amazing. Sony's tried to replicate that, and I feel like for the most part they've done an okay job at replicating it. But it's all single-player stuff too, right? So it's a hit or miss, and it's just for a PC player, you're like, hey, I get all of it, so it doesn't really matter.
And Steam and mods and
if anything, the worst part is for you, if you were a single player gamer, is you have to wait like an extra 4 years or 3 years, and then you get the Sony single players anyway because they just release them to PC. So really, it's not that big of a deal for PC players, which is awesome.
I agree.
Yeah. But that's kind of it in a nutshell, really, because obviously the weekend just ended. I know the court case is actually supposed to be done the 29th.
So then your bottom line, should there be game exclusives?
In a perfect world, no. But
So you think it should be illegal for Microsoft to like go to a company and say, "Hey, we'll pay you X amount million to keep the game only on Xbox"?
Well, hold on.
Well, that's basically what I'm getting at, asking.
No, I get you. I mean, in like a perfect world, no, right? If we were like in a more of a trigger word for some people, if we were in a more of a like a socialist type of world, then that wouldn't happen, right? But we're in this economic, make money kind of type of thing, right? Mario has been on Nintendo forever, right?
Right.
Mario will never end up on Xbox. Will never even touch a Sony console in any way, shape, or form, right? And that's okay. I feel like that should be okay. But then it's like, where do you draw that line, right? Is it 4 exclusives, 5 exclusives? Like, as much money as you have to pay, it doesn't also seem that smart in the long run, because for the most part, companies don't make a ton of money on consoles. So wouldn't you just want to sell as many games as possible? So you just give them to as many consoles as you can for the most part, and then you have certain add-ons specific for that console, kind of like what Sony's been doing with Call of Duty, you know?
Yeah.
I feel like that's the smart way to go. But, I mean, it's working for them, obviously, because everybody has to buy both if you want to get anywhere, so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think it's a tough question. And, right, like, you can argue, okay, Mario, Zelda, Pokemon shouldn't be on Sony or PlayStation and Xbox because Nintendo actually makes them or has owned Game Freak and whoever makes Zelda forever. Where, yeah, Microsoft is just buying them. So, yeah, I don't know. When I hear about the court case, it just bugs me on the inside. I'm like, should this be illegal?
Right. And it's really hard to argue with yourself because then it's like, well, but if I was on that side, I would want to do this. Or I would want to do at least a version of this because it's what's making me a ton of money. And I'm spending almost $100 billion to do this. And I should be able to do this for the most part. But you're alienating so many people too.
And I think it bugs, like, you know, Sony and Xbox or PlayStation and Xbox because, like, you know, since the 360 and the PS3, so many of the good games have been on both. And then, you know, I'm sure they badly want to be exclusive like Nintendo. So, yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's if
it's not the most it's not the most corrupt business in America either. Like, look at telecommunications, you know, with the monopolies there, like. Right.
Well, so here's a kind of a fun fact for you. I kind of learned this the other day. So dandelions, right? If you're talking monopolies, you'll know where I'm going with this in a minute. So apparently dandelions, everybody hates them, right? You don't want them in your yard. They're a weed. Apparently they look bad. Kids love them, right? But you can eat a dandelion, right? Every single part of the dandelion is 100% edible, and apparently it tastes really good. Never eaten one. I don't know. But apparently even like the
challenge.
Hey, I'll do it. But apparently they even get dandelion like seeds, kind of like sunflower seeds, and people love them. Apparently, right? And they put them in like salads and whatever. But it's looked down on, right? But if you eat them, it's actually really, really good for your heart. Well, there's a heart medicine company that makes millions of dollars, obviously, for you taking these medication. That same company that owns the heart medication also sells Roundup. So you kill the dandelions, so you don't eat the dandelions to help your heart. And then they kind of went on both fronts. Yeah. So then your heart hurts. You have to take the medication. You get money there, but then you're also buying the Roundup. Kill the dandelions. So it's kind of interesting. I learned that today or the other day.
Yeah, and we could talk about like all the companies BlackRock owns and you know,
and Vanguard and
and we could just keep going on and
okay, I have one more quick story. Just kind of popped in my head. It is gaming related for the most part.
Good.
I think it might blow your mind because it actually blew my fucking mind. And me saying fucking is actually like the low end of the cussing I could do for this story. So, I know you haven't really played too much for like Red Dead, right? But in the newest game, well, I don't think they were in the first one, but in the second game there was a rival gang called the Pinkertons. Okay. Well, it turns out this gang that is a real, actual mercenary group that is still alive and well here in the United States. Now, Hasbro, a toy company who also produces like the Transformer toys and G.I. Joe, but also interesting enough, they produce the Magic the Gathering cards. Okay. Now, apparently, to get these decks or whatever is like ridiculous amount of money. Apparently, they're almost more valuable than Pokemon cards to certain collectors. Apparently, there's this special edition card pack that was supposed to be coming out in a couple months. A worker accidentally packaged these cards in the wrong container. And somebody went to the store and bought this card pack and said, holy shit, look what I have on the internet, on a live. Hasbro gets alerted. They call a mercenary group called the Pinkertons to go to this little kid's house. He's like 16 with guns and literally point them at him. Say, give us those fucking cards or we will arrest you for theft. Kid bought them and everything. And apparently this isn't like a uncommon occurrence. Companies actually use this Pinkerton group to bully and everything consumers all the time. So much so that actually in the United States Constitution, it is illegal for the U.S. to hire the Pinkertons for any kind of mercenary action due to how unjust and unlawful that they present themselves. And the primary group that funds them is Vanguard and BlackRock.
Of course.
And I think that they are actually like a subsidiary for one of those two. But I heard that story and I like looked into it a little bit more because it's a TikTok thing. Anybody could be lying on TikTok. It's a legit story that was everywhere, but they were covering it up. Yeah,
censoring it. Yeah, because BlackRock owns all the news and tech and whatever else. So of course.
So for you and our listeners, definitely should look up that Pinkerton group and stuff. I was looking into it. It like blew my mind. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Oh.
No, they'll come after us now.
Probably.
Or you.
And I know so much. So. But that's all I have as far as gaming. You had anything else?
I mean, I can bring up, like, Nintendo had there was the Olympic esports in Singapore over the weekend. I didn't watch a whole lot of it because not a lot. They just didn't have any games I was just interested in. One of them was Street Fighter. I know a couple people that went over there. Brandon's cousin being one of them, and his girlfriend. She went over.
They play the new one or one of the older ones? Okay.
She got over there for cheap because she commentates. And does Twitch and all that. But anyways, I mean, I guess there was that. Nintendo chose the same weekend to have like an online Smash tournament. If you place high enough, you go to some event they're having in Seattle for free. I don't have any idea who won because like the big hitters were actually down in Florida for an event. So who knows? Who cares who won the online? No one really cares about Nintendo Smash events.
Right. On-air production meeting. If you know Brandon's cousin decently well, we should have him on the podcast once, at least for like a 15-20 minute thing. That'd be actually kind of interesting. Cool,
like before like Evo, like the big fighting game event. Hear what he has to say about Street Fighter 6.
That'd be actually really cool. I didn't know absolutely nothing about Street Fighter, but I'll learn up.
I mean, I can name two players, Daigo and Justin Wong.
Yeah.
But
that'd be actually kind of cool.
Yeah.
But
hear about that. But yeah, I guess we can move into the news now. Final thoughts on the submarine that what's the terminology? Imploded.
Yep. Yeah, obviously tragic, but in a good way, right? Because there was a lot of the back and forth with the rumors that they could hear them like every half hour banging, just couldn't find them. So it's a good thing that was just something else on the radar, or that they heard, and it wasn't them. That it was quick. They didn't even know it was coming. One thing that was kind of nuts is like at that pressure, at that kind of implosion, they were like ripped to like dust. So there's literally nothing left of them, which is kind of insane when you think about it that way. I know one of the sad angles is like the son of the billionaire that went didn't want to go, but he only went because of Father's Day. And then also like the Mr. Beast angle that he got message that he was actually supposed to go on one of these kind of subs. Not necessarily that it was supposed to be this one. He's not 100% sure, but he was invited to do this for a video. So yeah, that could have been nuts. That would have been everywhere, no matter what. But even more so for YouTube.
If Mr. Beast died on the submarine, dude, the internet would blow up. And I mean,
you'd have to do an hour on it.
It would be so sad for people. But oh my God, the memes! It would be all summer. I mean, I already see enough.
100%. I can already think of one of the memes that would pop up that I probably can't say, and you can ask me after we're done. But I could just picture it now. It would be the first thing that popped up too. But no, it is kind of nuts. The one kind of funny story that did kind of come out of it, yeah, sure, there's some pretty funny memes and jams cameras going on and on about how unsafe and stupid it was for them to do it. The stepson of one of the billionaires, when he heard about it, he's like, well, my stepdad knew how much I loved Blink-182. So we went to a Blink-182 concert and just partied, and then like was messaging OnlyFans models to try and hook up with him because he's soon to be probably a billionaire, and was asking them to sit on him, on his face and stuff like that. So that was kind of interesting. That was all over Twitter, and he was making videos on it. So he's having the time of his life now, I'm sure.
Yeah. I will say too, I do feel bad for other people in the submarine industry that follow the guidelines, get their things tested, because obviously this is going to scare people. This is going to be like after 9/11 when no one wanted to fly. You know, who's going to want to get in a submarine? And then I do have kind of one other thing about talking about submarines, but did you have any other thoughts on it? I'll save it for a second.
I don't think it's going to hinder the sub industry too bad, just because, I mean, like, think of how many astronauts and stuff have died and explosions and whatever, and now, like, you have Bezos and celebrities paying all this ridiculous amount of money to go to the edge of space, you know, or like those cavers, like when caves collapsed and stuff, and then Elon tried to get involved to save those kids, you know, and people still do it. I feel like there's just going to be a little bit more on the restriction angle, like you have to follow these guidelines or you can't do certain stuff, because obviously this sub was completely out of guidelines and they just didn't really care, and they were getting their gear from Camping World and stuff, which is just absolutely insane. I feel like there's just going to be a little bit more restriction, but they're still going to do it. It makes too much money. Each ticket was $250,000, so it's way too much money to be kind of thrown out. And I don't think we need to stop exploring the ocean. There's so much of it that we haven't seen. We've seen 10% of it. Keep looking at stuff. Just be safe, safer about it, you know. So
yeah, like a lot of people are. Yep.
Yeah, so I know you're about to blow this angle on.
I mean, I guess it's something for you, kind of. But over the weekend, there was a girl that told me that Markiplier is doing a movie about submarines or something.
Yep.
Like he's gonna be in one, and I guess like he recently released a trailer or something.
Yep.
And and then this happened. Any thoughts there on your man Markiplier?
So it's a game-based movie. The game is called Iron Lung. That's what the name of the movie. I watched a little bit of the video. I couldn't really get into it too much. It was really like a short video for the most part for him. It's like 45-ish minutes. I just didn't really get the concept for the most part. I'll probably revisit it when the movie is getting closer.
So what was the 45-minute thing?
It's like a 45-minute video for the game. Yeah, it's a short little indie game. That's like Markiplier's whole shtick is like he plays the horror indie games that are pretty short for the most part, that are like sometimes 15 minutes long or 3 hours for the most part. That's kind of his bit. He gets scared playing indie games. And this was just a small little indie game.
So I guess it just confuses me. So he spent 45 minutes playing this Iron Lung game, and then later on this year he's gonna have a movie about it.
Yep. And like the game, from what I saw, didn't have much of a story. It's like you're traversing this kind of like maze-like underground ocean, looking for artifacts or something like that, and you gotta take pictures of them. How he's gonna turn this into a movie, I don't know. But Markiplier has made like mini movies and like those extravagant like choose your own adventure things on YouTube that YouTube hypes up, and for the most part he does a pretty good job. So it's gonna be kind of one of those wait and see type of thing. But I will be interested to see if he does make a video about it, because he is somebody who likes, well, he's afraid of the ocean, but is interested by that type of stuff. So it'd be kind of interesting if he actually does say something, but I doubt it.
Mm-hmm. All right. So yeah, I just had to get your thoughts there about the submarine. Otherwise, moving on to the drama in Russia, or what some people call Russia Civil War, even though it wasn't really that. I mean, I'm sure anyone watching is seeing the stuff about it, so they already kind of know the Wagner Group that started going back to Moscow, and then all of a sudden they came to this agreement, and now they're in Belarus, north of Ukraine, and Kyiv, the capital. So yeah, I mean, it kind of looks like to me like it was kind of planned out. And people were saying too, like the two other countries, like Pakistan and whatever other one by Pakistan and Russia, technically they were supposed to help if this Wagner Group was actually going to do something.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know.
It's hard
to trust everything too that comes out of that area, to me, anyways.
Right. It's a lot to accept and believe what comes out of anything on the news recently, period. Because it's also like the NATO stuff with Ukraine, like where is that process at? Why is it still at a standstill? It's kind of the whole reason this war is happening, because we were going to bring them into NATO, but hey, we're a year and a half, almost 2 years into this. Like, what's going on with that? And nobody's too clear on it, which is kind of irritating. And then I didn't see the they made up stuff with the Wagner stuff yet. So that's kind of interesting, and then where they're placed is interesting too, because it's like when it popped off a night ago, it was really like, hey, we're in a full-fledged civil war and they're trying to invade Moscow. I was like, holy shit, that's the capital, Yeah. What the hell's going on in Russia? What's going to happen in 24 hours? Is Putin going to be dead? Like, what's going to happen? And then all of a sudden now it's...
Yeah. All
right. Now it's just over, And we're talking about, country with nukes and everything else, and nobody knows who's in charge, who's going to push that button, and... yeah. So, yeah.
So do you think maybe the truth is like somewhere in the middle, like the Wagner Group or the leaders or whatever complained, and Putin or whoever just said, okay, fine, if you guys want to go north of Kyiv and head south, whatever?
Yeah, I think it was one of those things where everybody kind of under expects what Putin will do, or even his intelligence. He's obviously super intelligent. You can't really get that from him, even for like the people that hate Trump, right? He's obviously intelligent enough to be where he is, right? Yeah. So I think people underestimate certain people like that. I think it was a real thing. It just was so short because it's like, hey, we're attacking an entire country. Not only an entire country, basically our president, prime minister, whatever, of this country. You know, so hey, if we keep going down this line, it's going to be bad for a long time. And then it's probably like, all right, hey, we hate everything that's going on in Ukraine. We kind of understand what's going on. We just don't want to be treated as such and blah, blah, blah. Let's come to an agreement, whatever. Yeah, I think it's more gray area than anything else. Nothing's ever going to be cut and dry, right? It's always going to be gray. 100%. And then especially when you're dealing with something like Russia or even like North Korea, it's always gray. Always, and always will be. So.
Yeah, there'll always be a motive behind what you're hearing.
Yeah.
Reported.
Yeah, but that's all I had. That's all I was really paying attention to. Yeah. Obviously, the Titanic sub was the biggest thing that happened all week, and then the Russia stuff happened 2 days ago at the time of recording.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like, holy shit, what's going on?
Yeah, and then it like died out super quick when it's like, oh, they just relocated. But yeah, otherwise, I think we'll wrap it up here. We got some more videos to make tonight. Yeah, otherwise, join Discord. Let us know if there's ever a topic you want discussed on the Players Only podcast. And yeah, we'll go from there.
Yeah, I don't know if you stopped it yet.
Nope. Go.
But quick note real quick, that next week is kind of a special edition kind of podcast. You're going to be going on a little vacay and whatnot, so I'm taking over for the players only duties at the very least. There'll still be plenty of fantasy football guru podcast coming, so just keep an eye out for that. It'll just be a slightly different video, and I'll explain it again next week.
I'm using my PTO next week, and Austin's flying solo.
Oh yeah.